The perpetual hum of the port of entry cargo inspection bay is a dull throb against my skull, a symphony of industrial monotony. Forklifts groan, their tines scraping concrete as they ferry steel containers, each a sealed mystery from the ships docked beyond the colossal bay doors. The air, thick with salt, diesel fumes, and the fine, pervasive dust of 1,000 forgotten cargoes, clings to my uniform, a second skin of weariness. This is my domain, Reid, a realm of endless manifests and the quiet tyranny of the mundane. I move with the practiced gait of a man who has walked these concrete aisles for too many years, each step a testament to a disillusionment earned hard and slow. My eyes, the color of a stormy sea, scan the digital readouts, the endless rows of declared goods, the boilerplate customs forms. It's a dance I know by heart, a cynical waltz with the world's hidden commerce. Every crate, every pallet whispers a story, and most of them are tedious. Yet beneath the drone, a different current pulses the unspoken promise of what lies beneath the surface, the dark allure of the contraband that occasionally breaks through the tedious veneer. That's the thread I chase, the only thing that keeps the rot from setting in completely. Today, the routine feels particularly suffocating. Container 734 Alpha Niner sits before I, a rust-streaked behemoth from the South China Sea. Its manifest declares a shipment of ceramic tiles destined for a new development across the city. A predictable, unremarkable load. I've seen 1,000 like it. The paperwork is crisp, almost too crisp, with all the right stamps in all the right places. It's the kind of meticulousness that usually lulls the less experienced, but for I, Reid, it's a subtle discord. The world, in my experience, rarely presents itself in such pristine order. My colleague, a younger officer whose optimism hasn't yet been scoured raw by the tide, gestures impatiently from a few bays over. Everything clean, Reid. We've got another 20 to clear before the shift ends. His voice is a bright, grating chirp against the bay's low growl. I offer a non-committal grunt, my gaze still fixed on the container's side. The seal is intact, a thin wire threaded through the latch, stamped with the shipping company's insignia. Standard procedure. I pull on a pair of worn leather gloves, their surfaces scarred by countless inspections, and retrieve my inspection kit from the utility cart. A pry bar, a barresso, a density meter, the tools of my trade, extensions of my own jaded senses. The ceramic tiles are stacked neatly, wrapped in industrial-grade plastic, secured with heavy-duty straps. They gleam under the harsh fluorescent lights of the bay, an army of uniform squares. I run my hand over a stack, feeling the cool, unyielding surface. Nothing amiss. I use the density meter, pressing its sensor against various points on the tiles. The readings are consistent within the expected range for porcelain. Another dead end, another tick in the box. It's not a sound, not a sight, but a feeling, a prickle at the back of my neck. They are the echoes of irregularities too subtle for the greenhorns, the anomalies that sing only to the attuned ear. The plastic wrapping, for instance. It's new, almost too perfect, without the usual scuffs and tears that accompany a long voyage. And the strapping cinched tight with a precision that borders on obsessive. Who takes such care with common ceramic tiles? I climb into the container, the metal floor cool beneath my boots. The air inside is stale, carrying the faint, earthy scent of clay and something else, something almost imperceptible, like old paper or dried herbs, but I dismiss it as the ghost of previous shipments. I move deeper, weaving between the towering stacks. The interior walls are plain steel, riveted panels meeting seamlessly. I tap a panel with the knuckle of my gloved hand. A solid thud. Another. All sound the same. The sound is almost identical, but not quite. The weight of the container, as declared on the manifest, was within acceptable margins for its stated contents, but I recall a slight, almost negligible discrepancy during the weigh-in, a figure I had mentally flagged and then dismissed. Now it claws its way back into my awareness. I retrieve a small, powerful magnet from my kit and drag it slowly across the suspect panel. It sticks firmly to the steel. No hidden non-ferrous materials, no aluminum shell. But when I move the magnet to the very edge of the panel near a rivet head, it tugs with a fraction less resistance. A sliver. Enough. My fingers trace the seam where the panel meets the one above it. The gap is almost invisible, filled with a sealant that matches the container's interior paint perfectly. Too perfectly. This isn't factory work. This is an alteration, expertly done, designed to fool the casual glance, to withstand the routine tap. This isn't a careless smuggler with a few bundles tucked into a spare crate. This is deliberate, professional, a master craftsman's touch. I retrieve the borescope, a thin, flexible optic cable with a tiny light and camera at its tip, finding the minutest imperfection in the sealant, a point where the material has dried just a hair too thin. I carefully, painstakingly, begin to work the scope into the seam. It's a slow, delicate operation, my breath held, the roar of the bay fading to an irrelevant murmur. The tension in the confined space grows palpable, a coiled spring within my chest. The tiny light on the borescope's tip flickers, then illuminates a space beyond the steel panel. My eye presses to the scope's eyepiece. The image resolves, grainy but clear. They are stacked with the same obsessive precision as the tiles in the main compartment, but these bricks hum with a silent, illicit power. They are too perfect, too uniform, too carefully concealed to be anything but trouble. This isn't a simple bust. This is an unveiling. I've just opened a door to something far larger, far more dangerous than a few kilos of illicit goods. The port of entry cargo inspection bay, my familiar, monotonous chessboard, has suddenly revealed a deadly hidden pawn, and I am already in play. The air, thick with the tang of salt, diesel, and unseen rust, clings to my uniform. I dismiss the last container, a standard shipment of industrial solvents, after a cursory check of its manifest and a quick pass with the handheld scanner. But something about the weight distribution, a phantom whisper of imbalance, had snagged in the back of my mind. It was a feeling honed by years spent sifting through the mundane, a sixth sense for the discordant note in the grand, cacophonous opera of legal trade. The senior inspector, a man whose face was a roadmap of cynical lines, barks from across the bay, "Reid, you planning on adopting that crate, move it, we're backed up to the docks." His voice, raspy from too many cigars and too little sleep, cuts through the din. I nod, a perfunctory gesture, but my feet remain rooted. The solvents container, now sitting on the inspection pad, seems to mock eye with its bland exterior. It's a standard 40-footer, its steel skin scarred by countless voyages. But that imbalance, it wasn't enough to trip a sensor, not enough for a red flag on the automated systems, but it was enough for you. Enough to prick the jaded hide of a man who thought he'd seen every trick in the book. "Just a double check," I call back, my voice tight with an unspoken resolve. I ignore the senior inspector's grunt of exasperation. Protocol dictates a swift processing, a reliance on the tech. My gut, however, hums a different tune, a dissonant chord. I circle the container again, my eyes, sharp as a hawk's, tracing the lines of the welds, the rivets, the faded stenciled markings. The manifest claims 50 barrels of industrial-grade ethanol. I pull out my heavy-duty wrench and a portable endoscope. The official inspection had involved a quick probe, a sample taken from one barrel declared legitimate. But if I read looking for a ghost, I don't just check the front door. I choose a barrel near the center, one that the official probe would have bypassed. The bung, sealed tight, resists my initial twist. Sweat pricks at my hairline. The metallic clang of my wrench against the steel reverberates, a solitary, insistent sound in the vast port of entry cargo inspection bay. I work with a methodical precision born of habit and a growing unease. Finally, with a sharp crack, the seal breaks. The endoscope slides into the viscous liquid, its tiny camera feeding an image to the screen I hold. Clear, golden, smelling faintly of grain alcohol, exactly what it should be. I frown. They was my gut playing tricks. They was it just the fatigue, the endless parade of indistinguishable cargo. I pull the scope out, wiping it clean. Then a thought, a cold flash of insight. What if it wasn't in the barrels? What if the barrels themselves were merely a sophisticated shell? I retrieve a specialized ultrasonic thickness gauge from my kit. This isn't standard procedure for a solvents check. This is going beyond, pushing past the boundaries of the expected. I press the sensor against the side of the barrel. The readout flickers, then settles. Thicker than standard. Not by much, a millimeter or two, but enough. Enough to be deliberate. This wasn't some amateur job, this was professional. I tap the barrel, listening for a different resonance. The sound is duller, less resonant than it should be. It's a double skin. My heart, a steady drum for so long, quickens its beat. I grab a pry bar, a heavy-duty cutting tool, and a portable grinder. The senior inspector's warnings, the backlogged schedule, they fade into the background. All that matters now is the steel, the lie it contains. The grinder screams, a shower of sparks illuminating the grimy corner of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. The acrid scent of burning metal mingles with the diesel and salt. I carve a careful square, the vibrations rattling my bones. The outer layer of steel peels back, revealing not the inner wall of the barrel but a cavity. And within that cavity, meticulously packed in vacuum-sealed, brick-shaped packages, is the truth. Not solvents, not ethanol. A crystalline white powder, compressed tight, emanating a faint, acrid chemical odor that cuts through the industrial smells. High-grade narcotics, kilograms of it. Enough to make a king out of a pauper or a dead man out of an inspector who saw too much. This wasn't just a bust, it was a declaration. A professional, high-stakes operation using a common industrial product as a Trojan horse. The senior inspector's voice, a moment ago an irritant, is now a forgotten echo. I reach for my comms unit, my fingers hovering over the transmit button. This is bigger than anything I've handled in years. Before I can press it, my handheld unit buzzes. Not a call, but a text message. An unregistered number. I squint at the screen, the harsh fluorescent lights of the bay glinting off the glass. For my own health and the health of those I care about, consider this a friendly suggestion. No name, no signature, just the stark white text against the black screen. Someone knew. Someone was watching, and they knew your name. The conspiracy wasn't just out there, somewhere across the docks or in the city's underbelly. It had already breached the perimeter. It was here, breathing down your neck. You look at the illicit cargo, then at the buzzing comms unit in your hand. The rules of the game had just irrevocably changed. The stark white text still burns behind your eyes, a phantom afterimage against the mundane glow of your terminal in the port of entry cargo inspection bay. Reid. A simple name, yet it felt like a brand seared onto your skin. Someone saw you, someone knew. The air, thick with the scent of diesel and brine, suddenly feels too thin. You walk the familiar concrete aisles, past stacked crates and humming refrigeration units, the anonymous message a lead weight in your gut. The seized shipment, now impounded, sits under a tarp, a silent monument to your sudden, unwelcome visibility. You approach the desk of the senior inspector, a man whose face is a roadmap of petty grievances and bureaucratic fatigue. The message, you begin, laying the printout on his cluttered desk. It's a direct threat, and it implies internal knowledge. He barely glances at it, adjusting his spectacles. Reid, we get all sorts of anonymous tips. Half of them are disgruntled dock hands. The other half are rivals trying to stir the pot. It's nothing. His voice is a gravelly shrug. I made a good bust, that's what matters. Don't go looking for ghosts where there are none. You press, but the detail, I missed the real prize. That's not a general threat. That's specific. Someone knows what was in that container and what wasn't. The senior inspector finally looks at you, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, boredom, or perhaps a more practiced indifference. My job is to inspect cargo, Reid, not to chase shadows. The contraband's impounded, case closed, move on. He waves a dismissive hand, turning back to his paperwork. Unless I have concrete evidence of something more. You don't, not yet. You feel the wall go up, solid and unyielding. The official channels meant to uphold the very law you serve are suddenly choked with dust and prevarication. It's not just indifference, it's a deliberate turning away, a practiced blindness. The port of entry cargo inspection bay, your fortress of routine, feels less like a domain and more like a cage, its bars made of red tape and unspoken agreements. Back at your own terminal, the hum of the computers is a dull drone. You lean back, the anonymous threat a cold knot in your stomach. "Case closed," he said. But your gut, a seasoned companion through years of deception and veiled truths, tells you it's just begun. The senior inspector's words, his quick dismissal, they don't sit right. It's too neat, too convenient. This isn't just about a few crates of illicit goods. This is about the threads connecting them, threads that someone wants to remain unseen. You pull up the digital manifest for the seized shipment. The paper trail is clean, almost too clean. A shell corporation registered offshore, a generic shipping agent, a destination warehouse that exists only on paper, standard procedure for a ghost operation. But you remember a detail, a small, almost insignificant anomaly from your physical inspection, the specific brand of industrial-grade shrink wrap used on the outer pallets. It wasn't the usual cheaper stuff. It was a premium European import, distinctive for its tensile strength and an almost imperceptible, iridescent sheen. You begin to dig, a digital archaeologist sifting through layers of data. You cross-reference the shrink wrap brand with recent import records, not just for the port of entry cargo inspection bay, but for other major ports in the region. Hours bleed into one another, the screens glow reflecting in your tired eyes. You filter by supplier, by volume, by consignee. Most hits are legitimate industrial buyers. But then, a pattern emerges. A small number of shipments, all using this specific shrink wrap, all routed through a particular, obscure freight forwarder known for handling specialized cargo, and all ultimately destined for a holding company named Orion Logistics, a name you don't recognize. Orion Logistics. A quick search reveals a single, registered address. An unmarked building in a forgotten industrial district on the city's fringe, far from the regulated bustle of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. No website, no listed phone number, just a P.O. box and a street address. A dead end for official channels, but a beacon for a man operating outside them. The clock on your screen ticks past midnight. You print the address, the paper crisp in your hand. The air outside is cooler, carrying the metallic tang of rain on asphalt. Your worn trench coat feels like a second skin as you step into the night. The city's neon pulse a distant, indifferent throb. The address leads you to a street that time forgot, a row of brick facades with boarded windows. Orion Logistics, it turns out, is a front for something else entirely, a dimly lit high-end antique shop. Its single window glows with a soft, amber light, illuminating a display of polished mahogany and intricate brass. A single, discreet sign reads, "The Collector's Vault." You push open the heavy oak door. The air inside is thick with the scent of aged wood, leather, and something else, a subtle, expensive perfume. Dust motes dance in the single beam of light slanting from a hidden lamp. Behind a counter, polishing a silver locket with a languid grace, stands a woman. A slow, almost imperceptible smile plays on her lips, a delicate curve that hints at secrets kept and promises broken. She wears a silk dress the color of jade, clinging to her form with an effortless elegance. "Lost, darling." Her voice is a low murmur, like whiskey poured over ice, each syllable a calculated caress. Or are I looking for something specific? You feel the tension coil in your gut, a different kind of tension, now one laced with a dangerous allure. This isn't a simple bust, this is a plunge into the deep end. "I'm looking for Orion Logistics," you say, your voice steadier than you feel. She sets the locket down, her gaze never leaving yours. A faint, knowing laugh escapes her. "Ah, the stars. Always so much bigger than they seem. Aren't they, Inspector?" She leans forward, resting her elbows on the counter, her eyes glinting with an unnerving intelligence. "Tell me, did I find what I was looking for in their last shipment? Or did I merely scratch the surface?" The words hang in the air, a silken trap. She knows. She knows about the shipment, about your role, about the anonymous message. She offers no details, no direct answers, only a tantalizing, dangerous revelation that confirms your worst suspicions. The mystery deepens, twisting into something far more intricate than you ever imagined within the confines of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. You are no longer just an inspector. You are a player, drawn into a game where the rules are fluid and the stakes are impossibly high. The words of the stranger, a silken snare, still cling to the stale air of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. She knows. You feel it in the chill that traces your spine, a whisper of a truth too vast to comprehend. The anonymous message, the hidden compartment, the silent warning, it all converges into a single, undeniable realization. You are not just an inspector, you are a pawn, and the board is far larger than you ever imagined. Your gaze drifts over the endless stacks of crates, the familiar architecture of your domain now seeming to mock your perceived control. The sterile fluorescent glow feels like a spotlight, not a shield. You pore over manifests, your fingers tracing lines of meaningless data, searching for the ghost of a pattern. The name Blackwater Logistics catches your eye again, a minor player, yet its shipping records possess an unnatural sheen of perfection, a lack of the usual logistical snags that plague every legitimate operation. Too clean, too quiet. A memory surfaces, a hushed rumor from a tired colleague over lukewarm coffee. Blackwater Logistics is a front, a shadow puppet for a figure known only as the Baron. A man whose reach is said to extend like an oil slick across the city's underbelly, touching everything from the docks to the council chambers. The night air bites, carrying the metallic tang of salt and the heavy perfume of diesel. Your footsteps echo on cracked asphalt as you navigate the labyrinthine alleys, a predator in reverse, hunting for the hunter. The docks here are a different beast, less regulated, more feral. You find the Blackwater Logistics Warehouse, a monolithic structure that seems to absorb the meager light from the distant street lamps. A single, grimy bulb casts a weak halo over a loading bay, illuminating dust motes dancing in the cold air. The scene is quiet, too quiet for a legitimate operation. Then, the hum of an engine slices through the stillness. A sleek, black sedan, customized with a chrome grille that glints like a predatory smile, glides into view. A hulking figure emerges from the driver's side, a man whose presence seems to suck the oxygen from the air. This is the Baron. He is met by a dock supervisor, a nervous man whose shoulders are hunched, his eyes darting like a trapped bird. Their voices are low, a conspiratorial murmur, but the night carries sound in strange ways. You press yourself further into the shadows between two rusted containers, the cold metal seeping through your jacket. You strain to hear, catching fragments. The next shipment, delays, the inspector. The words strike you like a physical blow. The inspector, he knows, the Baron knows. Your discovery of the contraband was no accident, no random stumble. It was a ripple in his carefully constructed empire. He's carrying a clipboard, his face etched with exhaustion, but his eyes are wide, fixed on the Baron and the supervisor. He must have been listening. A mistake. A fatal error. They are enforcers, silent and lethal. One grabs the boy's arm, twisting it with brutal force. The clipboard clatters to the ground, its papers scattering like fallen leaves. The boy lets out a choked gasp, a sound swallowed almost instantly by the vastness of the warehouse. A muffled thud, then another. A sickening, wet sound that reverberates in the stillness. No scream, just the echo of violence. The Baron doesn't flinch. His gaze remains fixed on the supervisor, his conversation continuing, uninterrupted, as if the brutal act had been nothing more than a fly landing on his sleeve. The message is not for the boy, but for anyone who might dare to listen, to question, to interfere. A knot of ice forms in your gut. This isn't just about illegal goods, it's about life and death, about a network so vast, so ruthless, that human lives are mere expendable cogs in its machinery. You have seen the face of the beast, and it has looked back. You retreat slowly. Silently, the image of the boy and the muffled thud seared into your mind, a grim testament to the Baron's iron grip. The city's underbelly has shown its teeth, and you are no longer just investigating, you are fighting for survival. She knows. The anonymous message, the hidden compartment, the silent warning, it all converges into a knot of dread in your gut. Her eyes, like polished obsidian, had held a flicker of something ancient, something predatory. This isn't just a bust, it's a deep-seated rot, festering within the very walls you swore to protect. The evidence, that small, innocuous-looking idol, holds the key. You need to secure it, document it, before it vanishes like smoke in a stiff breeze. The port of entry cargo inspection bay hums with its usual metallic symphony, the clatter of forklifts, the groan of cranes, the distant thrum of idling engines, but now, each sound feels laced with menace. You move with a hunter's caution, your steps measured across the oil-stained concrete. The temporary evidence locker, a sturdy but unremarkable steel cabinet, stands in the far corner of your inspection area, nestled between stacks of dormant pallets. It's a place of mundane security, rarely disturbed. The lock, a simple tumbler, clicks under your practiced hand. You pull the heavy door open, the scent of stale metal and dust filling your nostrils. The small idol, the one you'd meticulously cataloged, the one that held the secrets of a wider network, is gone. The shelf where it sat is bare. Not a trace. Not a sliver of the ancient stone. Your breath hitches. You run your hand over the empty space as if your touch might conjure it back into existence. This isn't just missing, it's erased. The meticulous record-keeping, the photographic evidence you'd taken, all of it suddenly feels flimsy, insubstantial. They didn't just take the idol, they took the proof of its existence. This wasn't a random snatch. This was precise, calculated. Then you see it, tucked neatly into the space where the idol had been, a small folded piece of paper. Your name, Reid, scrawled across it in elegant looping script. The stranger's hand. You unfold it, your fingers suddenly clumsy. Inside, a single sharp word, betrayed. And beneath it, a crude drawing of a customs badge broken in half. Your eyes dart around the vast port of entry cargo inspection bay. The familiar faces of the handlers, the other inspectors, suddenly seem alien, their movements imbued with a new, suspicious energy. Had she been watching you? Had she known you would come for the evidence? Was this a warning or a taunt? Before you can fully process the message, a voice, sharp and authoritative, cuts through the industrial din. Reid, hold it right there. You spin around. The chief of inspection, a man whose face usually wore the permanent crease of bureaucratic fatigue, now looks grim, his jaw tight. Beside him stands a uniformed detective you recognize from the city precinct, his hand resting casually on the butt of his sidearm. Behind them, two of your own colleagues, faces grim, block the main egress. What is this? You demand, the paper still clutched in your hand. The chief steps forward, his eyes narrowed, scanning the empty locker. We received an anonymous tip, Reid, a very specific one. His gaze lands on your hand. What's that IRA holding? You hesitate. To show them the note from the stranger, confirming your own sense of betrayal, would only complicate matters. They wouldn't believe you, they would see it as a desperate fabrication. The detective steps in, his voice low, laced with a practiced menace. We've had reports of irregularities, Reid, discrepancies in recent manifests. Cash. I haven't touched departmental funds in weeks, let alone stashed anything. This is it. The frame, it's meticulous, swift, and utterly devastating. The anonymous tip, the vanished evidence, the planted money, it all clicks into place with a horrifying precision. The stranger's note, betrayed, now screams with a different meaning. This is a setup. The chief shakes his head, a look of weary disappointment on his face. We found it, Reid, in my personal locker, along with some highly sensitive documents that should never have left secure storage. Documents relating to the contraband I supposedly found. He gestures to the empty evidence locker. And now the evidence itself is gone. Your mind races, connecting the dots. This wasn't just about silencing you. It was about discrediting you, turning you into the very criminal you were hunting. The weight of suspicion, of circumstantial evidence, presses down on you. For now, you're coming with us. My colleagues, faces still unreadable, shift their weight, blocking any escape. I am trapped. The port of entry cargo inspection bay, once my fortress, now feels like a cage. The stranger's words echo, a phantom whisper in the cavernous space. She knows. She knows because he was part of it. She set the stage, or at least provided the cue. The realization hits I with the force of a physical blow. The femme fatale, the enigmatic informant, was never on my side. He was a lure, a distraction, a perfectly crafted piece of the elaborate trap. Her information wasn't a warning. It was a carefully curated script, designed to lead I down a path that ended here, framed and exposed. I am alone, utterly, dangerously alone, hunted by the very system I dedicated my life to. The truth, like a jagged shard of glass, pierces through the remnants of my trust. Everything I thought I knew, every alliance, every clue was a lie. The metallic tang of the port of entry cargo inspection bay air, usually a familiar comfort, now claws at my throat. My colleagues, their faces impassive masks beneath the fluorescent glare, form an unspoken barricade. They don't overtly threaten, but their presence is a suffocating blanket, each gaze a silent accusation, each shift of weight a tightening of the noose. The heavy machinery, the stacked containers, the ceaseless hum of the port, all conspire to amplify my isolation. I am a fly caught in amber, watched, measured, waiting for the inevitable press. The words of the stranger, a chill phantom, still echo. She knows because he was part of. Part of what? The question gnaws, a splinter under the skin. I scan the faces around I, searching for a flicker of doubt, a shadow of an old loyalty, but find only polished stone. The port of entry cargo inspection bay, my domain, has become a stage for my slow demise. A hand clamps lightly on my shoulder, not aggressive but possessive. Reid. The supervisor's voice is low, almost a purr. A few questions, just routine. But the eyes are anything but routine. They hold the cold glint of polished steel, reflecting the harsh truth: I am alone. They escort I not to an office, but to a seldom-used corner of the bay, a forgotten alcove behind a wall of obsolete crates where the surveillance cameras have blind spots. Here, the air is thick with dust and desperation. They speak in hushed tones, offering choices that are no choices at all, cooperation or implication. The operation they imply is too big, too deeply rooted. My discovery a mere blip. Forget what you saw, Reid, the supervisor murmurs, and this all goes away. The offer is laced with poison. But the image of the hidden compartment, the strange markings on the contraband, burns behind my eyes. It's not just a bust, it's a wound in the city's heart. As their words wash over I, a detail surfaces from the murky depths of my memory. The initial inspection, not the contraband itself but the shipping manifest. A discrepancy, dismissed at the time as clerical error. A minor detail about the origin port, conflicting with the declared content's usual source. It was a fleeting thought, overshadowed by the discovery of the hidden compartment. But now, under the duress of their quiet threats, it flares into significance. I move towards my locker, my gaze sweeping the vast expanse of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. My eyes snag on a figure near the perimeter fence, a woman in a worn utility jacket, her back to I, seemingly absorbed in checking a cargo seal. The city detective. I recognize her by her distinctive, almost anachronistic fedora. She's been a phantom presence around the docks for weeks, her beat far from customs, but her interest in certain shipments a known, if unspoken, fact. This is my chance. I feign a stumble, sending a stack of old files clattering. The distraction is brief, but it's all I need. In that instant, I dart not for my locker, but for the nearest container aisle, weaving through the towering metal blocks. The shouts behind I am immediate, sharp. Reid. You sprint. The cacophony of the port of entry cargo inspection bay swallowing the pursuer's footsteps. The city detective, startled by the commotion, turns. Your eyes lock for a fraction of a second, a silent plea, a flicker of understanding. Origin port, it's a ghost route. Look for the shell company listed as the secondary consignor, it's a front. The city detective's gaze is shrewd, her face unreadable, but a spark of recognition ignites in her eyes. I've been tracking phantom shipments for months, she says, her voice a low growl, Goods that disappear before they hit the market. Money laundering, I thought, but the scale, it felt bigger. She pulls a small, worn notebook from her jacket, flipping through pages filled with cryptic scribbles. A string of businesses all failing, then suddenly resuscitated by anonymous investment, all tied to a new municipal development project. It's not just about the goods, Reid. It's about control, destabilizing the city council, buying off key votes. This contraband isn't just for profit, it's a lever, a means to an end. They're trying to collapse the local government, clear the way for their own puppet regime. The revelation hits I like a physical blow, not just smuggling, but a deliberate, insidious plot to dismantle the very foundations of the city. This isn't just about upholding a broken system, it's about protecting what little integrity remains. They've got me boxed in, I tell her, glancing back at the distant figures of my former colleagues, now spreading out, tightening their search grid. They know I know, this ghost route, this shell company. It's the thread. We need proof, undeniable proof, linked directly to the top, something they can't bury. Her eyes narrow, reflecting the steel of the port of entry cargo inspection bay itself. Where would they keep something that important? Something that connects the contraband to the takeover? I think of the original container, still impounded, still under my jurisdiction, and the mysterious she the stranger mentioned. She knows. Could she have hidden something within the very cargo I found? A failsafe, a piece of leverage against her own conspirators. A desperate gamble forms in my mind, a last-ditch plan. The original container, I say, my voice firm. There might be something more. A hidden compartment within a hidden compartment. But I need to get back in there without being seen. And I need someone on the outside, ready to blow the whistle the moment I find it. The city detective nods slowly, her gaze sweeping over the intricate labyrinth of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. Risky, she admits, but if what you say is true, it's the only play we have left. The tension in the air solidifies, sharp and palpable as I prepare to re-enter the cage, not as a trapped animal, as a predator ready to spring. The chill of the night air clung to my skin, a damp, metallic tang that tasted of the sea and untold secrets. I moved through the familiar labyrinth of the port of entry cargo inspection bay, each step deliberate, the weight of the city detective's words echoing in the vast, open space. Risky, she'd said, and the word had settled like a stone in my gut. But here, amidst the silent sentinels of stacked containers, risk was the currency of survival. My breath plumed in the cold, a fleeting ghost in the harsh glow of the security lights. The hum of distant machinery was a low thrum against my ears, a prelude to the storm. This was it, the final play. I knew the game, the precise moment they would feel safe enough to emerge to claim their prize. I found my perch, a vantage point overlooking the designated lane, the one marked for the expedited shipment. Below, the port of entry cargo inspection bay stretched out, a colossal stage awaiting its grim drama. The air was thick with a palpable tension, a quiet hum that vibrated deeper than any engine. A sleek black sedan, out of place among the utilitarian trucks and forklifts, glided into the bay, its headlights cutting through the gloom. It stopped near the designated container, a behemoth of corrugated steel. Then another car, a luxury model, followed, pulling up close. The doors opened with a soft click and figures emerged, silhouetted against the harsh industrial lights. First, the syndicate boss, a portly man whose expensive suit seemed to sag with the weight of his own avarice. Next to him, the corrupt official, his tailored overcoat failing to conceal the tremor in his hands, a man undone by his own greed. She scanned the bay, her movements fluid, predatory. They approached the container, their voices low murmurs swallowed by the vastness of the bay. I watched, my breath held, every nerve taut. This was the moment. The stage was set. Quite the reunion. The syndicate boss's eyes narrowed, a viper assessing its prey. "Reid," he hissed, his voice like gravel, a customs man playing detective. "Foolish. Foolish. You took another step, closing the distance, or perhaps just tired of the charade. You gestured to the container. This isn't just another shipment, is it? This is the final payment, the culmination of a network that's bled this city dry. The corrupt official visibly flinched, his gaze darting between you and the boss. A minor inconvenience. Minor, I chuckled, a dry, bitter sound. The initial discovery, a simple bust of antique weaponry, a red herring perfectly placed to draw attention away from the real prize. But you made a mistake. A signature, a specific type of lacquer on the crates. It led me to the real goods, the ones you've been moving for months. I continued, my voice gaining momentum, a flood of carefully observed details. The initial shipment wasn't about the weapons. It was about establishing a pattern, a legitimate flow for my specialized containers. Containers designed with double walls, hidden compartments ferrying more than just cultural artifacts. It was a sophisticated pipeline for illicit chemicals, the precursors for synthetic narcotics, manufactured in those abandoned factories you acquired down by the old docks. I pointed at the corrupt official. Your permits, your expedited clearances, they weren't just for bypassing inspections. They were for ensuring my specific containers, the ones with the extra weight, the ones that never seemed to get a thorough look, always went through the system unimpeded. And you, Mr. Official, you signed off on every single one, lining your pockets with blood money. The official's face paled, his composure crumbling. Lies, slander. And you, I turned to the femme fatale, the broker, the one who smoothed over the rough edges, who made sure the right people looked the other way. You were the grease in their well-oiled machine, ensuring the supply chain never faltered, from the manufacturers to the distributors. This final shipment isn't about weapons or even chemicals. This is the payoff, the last piece of the puzzle, bringing in the final payment for the entire operation. Enough of this preening, the syndicate boss roared, his patience snapping. He signaled with a flick of his wrist. The air crackled. You walk into a trap, Reid. The boss sneered, a cruel smile twisting his lips. This port of entry cargo inspection bay will be your tomb, perhaps. I conceded, a grim resolve hardening my features. But I won't be alone. Before the boss could react, a siren wailed, piercing the night. Flashing lights erupted from behind the container stacks, illuminating the bay in a frantic dance of red and blue. The city detective, along with a squad of uniformed officers, swarmed the area, their presence a sudden, overwhelming force. The enforcers hesitated, caught off guard. The corrupt official let out a whimper, collapsing against the container. The syndicate boss, however, remained defiant, his hand darting to his own weapon. A double cross, Reid. The femme fatale's voice was a low murmur, his eyes still locked on yours, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. Was it surprise, betrayal, or a twisted admiration? The boss fired first, a deafening crack that shattered the night's fragile peace. The bullet whizzed past my ear, embedding itself in the steel container with a clang. Chaos erupted. Shots echoed, shouts filled the air, and the port of entry cargo inspection bay transformed into a deadly arena. The officers returned fire, their training evident in their coordinated movements. The enforcers scattered, seeking cover, their panicked shots less precise. Through the maelstrom, I saw the syndicate boss making a break for his car, dragging the terrified official behind him. The femme fatale, however, moved differently. She didn't run towards their escape vehicle. Instead, she moved towards a separate, smaller access gate, her movements swift and purposeful. A moral decision solidified in the heart of the chaos. I could pursue the boss, ensure the capture of the architect of this corruption, or I could go after the woman who had been the linchpin, the one who knew the true depth of their network. Capturing the boss would be a victory, a clean bust. But letting the broker slip away meant the roots of the network might still thrive, ready to sprout again. My eyes met hers across the smoke-filled bay, a silent exchange in the heart of the storm. She hesitated, a fleeting moment of vulnerability, then turned, her gaze flicking towards a remote panel on the side of the container. A small, almost imperceptible nod. A final, cryptic clue. The boss was almost at his car, the official a dead weight in his grasp. The detective was directing her officers, trying to contain the scattered enforcers. I had to choose. the network's heart or its insidious mind. The panel, the woman's glance, it spoke of something more, something deeper than just an escape. I broke cover, not towards the boss, but towards the container, towards the panel the femme fatale had indicated. Bullets whizzed, but my focus was unwavering. I reached the panel, a simple keypad. Her eyes, still on I, held a desperate plea, a challenge. This was her final offering, a choice between justice and vengeance, between the simple bust and the complete unraveling. The metallic tang of the port, the acrid smell of gunpowder, the desperate shouts, all faded into a dull roar. My fingers hovered over the keypad, the fate of the network, and perhaps my own soul, resting on my next move. The wail of the sirens tore through the thick night air, a desperate shriek that cut short the boss's menacing grin. Red and blue strobes painted the port of entry cargo inspection bay in a frantic, pulsating rhythm, making the towering containers dance like startled giants. Uniformed officers, a tide of dark blue, poured from behind the stacks, their drawn weapons gleaming under the harsh, artificial light. The overwhelming force was a brutal, beautiful symphony of order crashing down on chaos. I watched, a silent observer in the eye of the storm. The boss, caught mid-threat, froze, his face a mask of disbelief rapidly morphing into impotent rage. His hand, still reaching for the sidearm tucked into his waistband, never made it. A uniformed officer, quick and efficient, slammed him against a container, metal groaning in protest. Cuffs clicked shut, the sound almost lost in the rising din of shouted commands and shuffling feet. The stranger, however, moved with an almost ethereal grace. She didn't fight, didn't resist. Her eyes, cool and analytical, scanned the bay, taking in the scene with a detached air that belied the gravity of her situation. When the city detective stepped forward, his trench coat a dark shadow against the flashing lights, she offered no resistance as her wrists were bound. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her features as her gaze found yours. A final, wordless acknowledgement of the dangerous game played and lost. The port of entry cargo inspection bay was transformed from a clandestine battleground into a crime scene. Forensic teams, their faces grim under the brims of their caps, moved with practiced precision, dusting for prints, marking evidence, cataloging the illicit cargo. The sealed containers, once silent witnesses to my quiet investigation, now stood open, their hidden compartments revealing the sheer volume of the operation. Rare antiquities, unmarked bundles of currency, and the potent, unrefined substances I'd suspected. It was all there, laid bare under the unblinking eye of the law. The city detective approached I, his silhouette framed by the flashing lights, a weary exhaustion etched around his eyes. "Reid," he said, his voice low, a hell of a night. I simply nodded, the metallic tang of adrenaline still sharp on my tongue. "You had a tip, I assume." He offered a grim smile. "Let's just say we've been watching this particular string unravel for a while. Your anonymous call about unusual manifests, the repeated movements through this bay, it all started to coalesce. We knew something asterisk was coming down tonight. I just happened to be in the middle of it when it broke." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the scene. The boss, as I call him, he's a bigger fish than I might realize. Connected, deeply. This isn't just about a few containers of contraband. "I figured," you replied, the words tasting like ash. "The stranger, he's not just a courier, is he?" The detective leaned in slightly, his voice dropping further. "No, Reid, far from it. She's the architect. The one who designed the whole logistical web, the intricate shell corporations, the smuggling routes. The boss was just the muscle, the local face. We've been trying to pin her down for months. Her name's been whispered in every dark corner of this city, always just out of reach." He looked at you, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "I got closer than anyone. You watched as the stranger was led away, her head held high, her back straight. She didn't look back. The detective was right. He was no mere pawn. He was the calculating mind, the dangerous allure that had drawn you deeper into this murky world." The realization settled heavy in your gut, the true scale of the operation, the vast network of corruption. It stretched far beyond this port of entry cargo inspection bay. This bust, significant as it was merely the severing of a single, well-placed tentacle. The monster itself, you knew, still lurked in the depths. Hours later, the chaos subsided into a methodical cleanup. The last of the arrested were taken away. The contraband was secured, destined for evidence lockers and incinerators. The bay, usually a place of perpetual motion, felt eerily still, save for the hum of generator lights and the distant growl of a tow truck. The detective clapped you on the shoulder. "I'll have to give a full statement, of course. Internal affairs will want to know everything, my superiors too." He paused, his gaze searching yours. "I went off-book, Reid. I know that, but I also brought down a major player. That's a complicated balance. You understood the unspoken implication. Your career as a customs inspector, already a tarnished badge on a worn coat hung by a thread. The rules you'd bent, the lines you'd blurred, they would all be scrutinized. Justice, you realized, was a fickle mistress and often demanded its own pound of flesh from those who dared to chase her too closely. Later, under the pale, indifferent glow of the dawn, you walked away from the port of entry cargo inspection bay. The air still carried the faint scent of diesel, salt, and the lingering residue of danger. The vast, empty expanse felt different now, scarred by the night's revelations. The familiar domain, once a place of cynical routine, was now etched with the indelible mark of betrayal and violence. You hadn't cleaned the world, not entirely. The powerful figures the detective hinted at, the ones pulling strings from even higher up, would likely remain untouched, their names unspoken, their influence undiminished. Justice in this city was always partial, always negotiated, but you had done your part. The cynicism that had been your constant companion felt heavier now, tempered by a raw weariness. Yet beneath it, a sliver of something else persisted, a quiet resolve, a grim satisfaction that you had for once followed the thread to its bitter end. And sometimes, in a city like this, simply walking away was a victory in itself.